Mandatory training kind of sucks, doesn't it? You go sit down in a theater, in an auditorium, and you listen to some individual up on the platform regurgitate information that's on a slide, and it's half-baked, man. It sucks. There is a problem with mandatory training, but it may not be what you think it is. Team, welcome to the channel. As always, I'm stoked to see you. So Stoker here, and this channel is all about professional development, military news, and things that you can put in your kit bag that will help you get on your way to where it is that you're trying to go. And in this one, I want to talk about mandatory training. So we're talking about EO, we're talking about SHARP, resilience training, we're talking about financial readiness, personal readiness, suicide prevention, SUDC, all the other stuff that we got to take. I'm not talking about, and this all will apply as well to online training that we do. Actually, I think it probably applies rather nicely to online training that we have to do. And of course, we know there's a ton of that too. So I'm sure that we would be in agreement that most of the training that we've partaken of has kind of sucked. But there's a reason, A, why it exists, and B, there's a reason why it sucks. And so let's go ahead and dive into that online training that you do. There's probably a ton of it, right? If we go to 350-1, quite a bit of the training that's authorized or that's required of us, whether it's by the Army or by our organization, we can do online, right? And then there's all the training that we do for promotion points. And it all kind of sucks because you're behind a computer and you're just clicking as fast as you can. You're not actually getting anything out of it, are you? No, you're not. I've been around the block. I know these things. I've done these things. But I wonder how much we could get if we actually paid attention to the training that we're doing, as opposed to just trying to click through something as fast as we can to get a couple of promotion points. I wonder if there's some classes in there that we might actually be interested in and that we could apply to ourselves to make us a little bit gooder. For the in-person mandatory training, the reason why most of it sucks is because it is just that. It's regurgitated, and it comes across as dogmatic, right? It's doctrine. It's black. Here's what the regulation says. And if you are an NCO, or if you are soon to be an NCO, and you're looking after getting into one of these particular fields where you may be in a position to give some of these trainings, I'm going to challenge you and encourage you. I'm going to submit to you that you have to do something different. You can't just do the same thing that you were complaining about when you were a junior soldier. If you do, you're nothing but a hypocrite. Now, that being said, we do need to share what doctrine and regulation says, right? But if that's where it begins and if that's where it ends and there's no story, there's no narrative involved, there's no here's how it applies to you in your service, in your daily walk, man, we're missing the boat. So I was at NTC many moons ago, and I was credentialed as a SHARP victim advocate, and the unit that I was attached to had asked me to conduct some training. They needed to conduct some training during NTC. Imagine that. And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I got with this battalion commander and the sergeant major and some of their S1 individuals, and I got their demographics for their unit. And we had everybody huddled up together, and everybody was seated. And I had the battalion command team off to my front left, company commanders off to my front right, and everybody else sitting behind them. Now, prior to this, I had done some digging, again looking at those demographics, and I figured out what the statistics were based off of just normal everyday statistics that you can find online. And I went and I got myself some volunteers. And I talked to him before the class got started, and I said, hey, I don't want to put yourself in a position where you may be uncomfortable, so if that's the case, go ahead and go away. Everybody was good to go. I said, so when I ask, I want you to stand up. I think I had probably like 8 dudes and 6 females or something like that were volunteers. And the class size that I had was maybe 100, 150. I can't remember how big the entire battalion was. It was pretty large. And the time came for the course and for the class to start. I said, I went in through my whole 7-point intro and stuff, and I said, now before we get going, I need a few folks to stand up. And so these 8 males and 6 females stood up. And I looked at the battalion commander, and I said, ma'am and sergeant major, I need you to stand up, and I need you to look behind you at everybody who's standing up. And they did, and they looked at these 8 males and 6 females that were standing up. And I let a little period of silence sit in, right? It's kind of a pause for dramatic effect. And they turned back and looked at me, and I said, ma'am, this is how many in your formation have already been sexually assaulted or harassed. I'm not talking about what's going to happen in the future. I'm talking about that's already happened. When I told them that, the look of disbelief that came on both of their faces, because it became more real. They could see faces. They could see people that they knew in their own organization who had already been impacted, whether it was before the service or in the service. If you look around your formation right now, there's going to be over 20% that have already been impacted. Again, whether it was growing up during childhood, in adolescence, as a young adult, or after they've already come into the service. The reason why mandatory training sucks is not because you have to sit there and listen, but it's because we don't make it real enough. We don't talk the story. We don't share the significant impact of why we are giving this training. And at the end of the day, all of the mandatory training that we're doing, especially as it relates to resilience, to EO and SHARP, it's all value-based stuff. At the end of the day, right? It's all value-based training. But we don't inject the values into our classes. All we do is read and regurgitate what doctrine tells us. Team, we can do better than this. We have to do better than this. Those who are in our charge need and deserve it. You don't deserve to sit there out in the auditorium getting bored, writing, stay awake, 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 stay awake. If that's what's happening, it's not them in the audience that's jacked up. It's us as leaders and instructors who are jacked up. Because we're not taking enough ownership and we're not taking enough pride in what we do. Team, I know it's just a short conversation about why mandatory training sucks. But I hope you can take it to heart. Especially as you move up and into a position that is going to enable you to teach others these value-based areas and subjects that we need to have hard and honest conversations with. If you got something out of it, make sure you leave a comment down below. Consider sharing this out with a friend or battle buddy as well. I appreciate all you guys, man. Till then, you stay out there, you keep grinding, and you stay stoked.